Now, some people, the haters, the mainstream media, they're going to talk about like some of them are really fragile, some of them are partial, whatever. He has done this with seven different regions that have been in a constant state of turmoil, or at least a very, very precarious situation for 7 different locations. And that's just like since he's taken office, less than a year, not to mention the Abraham Accords in his first administration. And so I just want to remind everybody that President Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize for just like,
the
I
hope.
don't know. Yeah, the hope.
It
and
was
change.
like the hope or the potential of
strengthening international diplomacy.
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, the podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin, because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. We're here. We're back. I know we weren't here on Tuesday. Apologies. So,
yes.
Okay. We didn't do it for no reason, although it ended up being for no reason. We had an opportunity that was going to require some travel.
We're not.
I'm not telling the details.
You're not telling.
No, because
it's
sitting on the shelf.
It's sitting on the shelf. It's going to come back around.
It's going to come back around. So even though you kind of saw us like living our regular lives on our Instagram, it was because last minute the rug got pulled out from under us. But it was a very exciting opportunity.
Who was it because of?
Because of the. Do I say why?
Yeah, just tell them why.
Because of the Democrats. I blame them. Their fault.
They ruined our situation. It was very sad for us.
Hopefully, it will come back around, and unfortunately, we'll miss another episode, but it'll be for good reason. Okay, but we're back today because the travel got thwarted or whatever. But we have some breaking news. But before I get into that breaking news, if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday except this week, but whatever, you know what I mean? With a brand new episode where we share our thoughts and our rants. And if you want exclusive content and you want this early, you want video, you want no ads, please consider becoming a paying supporter. There is a link in the show notes. And if you're an existing supporter of Rivera and Reeves and have been on the fence about joining our separate Substacks, shoot us a DM because we have exclusive discount links for our Rivera and Reeves supporters only. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Let me catch my breath. Are you seeing how my background is starting to develop?
It looks good.
I know.
Good.
Thank you.
I won't show you my background because I think there was a dismembered baby doll on the floor somewhere. I asked the children to clean it up. I'm like, look, you can make that side of the room look messy, but this one we have to look kind of put together. But your flag looks nice. It looks really good.
Oh, thanks. Let me tilt it up. It's like
Where'd you find it?
Amazon.
Nice. I like it.
China? No, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. Totally. Okay, I didn't look. I probably should have looked. But
hold on. As long as I want to tell something that I'm sure you just saw it because you usually see things even before I see them.
Yes.
But speaking of America, did you hear about the Turning Point USA All-American halftime show that they just announced?
I have heard. I didn't know it's official.
Yeah,
I know
just
there was
announced
rumors that they were going to do
about an hour ago
programming or whatever.
Yep, All-American halftime show celebrating faith, family, and freedom. So you can go to AmericanHalftimeShow.com, and I didn't visit the site yet, so I don't know who they're performing or who's performing or what they're going to be doing. But they said that stuff's going to be announced soon, so I thought that was kind of cool because I don't know if Bad Bunny is your vibe, but
not my vibe.
We don't even watch the Super Bowl. We never watch
of the same
island,
but
you are of the same island.
Vibe.
Yeah,
we don't even in my life for years because
do you watch the
I don't even remember the last time I watched a Super Bowl game. Honestly,
no.
I went to a party 2 years ago. So, but yeah, I might check it out.
Yeah,
I'll be interested for sure. Alternate programming. It kind of reminds me a little bit
gyrating bodies and stuff like that.
Well, do you remember many moons ago, many moons ago,
Janet Jackson?
When the nip slip. Right.
Okay, I was at a conference for children's directors because I was a director of a church children's program.
Yeah.
And I was in San Diego when it happened in my hotel room, like making notes for like our Sunday school curriculum. And I'm watching it. And that happened. I was like, oh, my
Well,
Lord.
I was at church, but
Oh, yeah, because lots of churches
they were doing
do,
a
like,
Super Bowl thing, but
Yeah,
they
those
cut
dropped
it
off
off
real quick after that.
Well, thankfully, that particular one, they did not, they cut off for the halftime show because,
They just knew.
Well,
They're like,
thank
look,
goodness.
something's
Yeah.
probably going to happen.
So that's what that kind of reminded me of. But anyways,
Yep.
on much more significant, bigger news,
Yeah.
we have the details here are developing. It happened yesterday where it was announced during Trump's Antifa roundtable that Israel and Gaza had signed on to the first phase of a peace deal. Emphasis on the first phase because we are still a long way away. And in fact, I got a clip here of the moment that Rubio informed the president.
Yay, Rubio.
Well, they're smart, but they're not smart enough.
So this is during the roundtable. For those of you who are listening and not watching, Trump just got a little note from Rubio.
They have
thinking
been
about it.
covered by these liberal cities for so many years. And that's why
They
we're
do
all
a
working
close-up
with
of the
Treasury,
note.
with all these different departments to find the criminal conspiracy.
And now Rubio whispers in his ear.
I'm just given. Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly. So I will take a couple of more questions.
It was actually
I love it.
interesting because when they did a close-up, the AP actually got a close-up of that note. And the note was, it looks like we got a deal with Israel and Gaza, and we need you to prove a truth post so you can announce the deal first.
Okay, question before we move on.
Yes.
Where is the AP positioned in that room? Because I saw where everybody was sitting in the round table, which was actually just like three sides of a square. But where is the AP positioned to where they could get, because I saw that picture. I'm like, where's their camera? Because no one was behind him or even really on the sides. Do they have like some super like long camera angle?
I have
that's,
no idea. I mean,
swooped over his head or
I
something?
think the image that I saw, the note was like tilted a little bit. It was like in the process of him. Do you know what I mean? And I guess they just obviously probably they were rolling camera, saw the tilt and got to see the image because they clearly, or the note, and they clearly somebody was zooming in even in that video.
Yeah.
So it's a very big deal. The news is that the initial step means that the 56 hostages and 20 living, but they will all be released. Unfortunately, some of the hostages where they have passed, they were either killed or died in captivity. Some of their bodies still need to be located. So we don't know exactly how many of the deceased are going to be returning, but all 20 of the living are going to be returning. And they're announcing it as soon as Monday, that it's possible that they'll be getting home to Israel. And in other news or related news, Trump is going to be traveling to the Middle East. I've heard reports of him going to Egypt, and I've heard reports of him going to Israel.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure exactly where he's going, but the reports are that tomorrow he's going to do his Walter Reed annual checkup, and then he's flying off to the Middle East. So I'm sure to do a big event, to sign, to meet with families. So, but this is the first stage in a very long road to hopefully an all-out peace deal.
Yeah.
So it's
a
good
huge deal.
news. Yeah, and let's just continue to keep this situation in our prayers that it,
that it goes
that
through.
nobody like goes off and everybody gets home and it all goes through. So
I don't love the idea of him flying there, but I understand that he.
Well,
I'm just holding my breath, kind of.
Any other president would be like, okay, a month from now, let's schedule some kind of event where we can do some kind of celebration and meet people and shake hands and everything. Obviously, this president, he is always on the ball. He sees an opportunity. The Nobel Peace Prize is supposed to be announced tomorrow. I'm not expecting.
Let me just remind everybody, okay? Because this has been my shtick today. That this is what I've been talking about today. Because, I mean, without going into all kinds of the specifics, Trump has, love him or hate him, he has brokered some kind of arrangement, deal what have you, in 7 different conflicts. Now, some people, the haters, the mainstream media, they're going to talk about like some of them are really fragile, some of them are partial, whatever. He has done this with seven different regions that have been in a constant state of turmoil, or at least a very, very precarious situation for 7 different locations. And that's just like since he's taken office, less than a year, not to mention the Abraham Accords in his first administration. And so I just want to remind everybody that President Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize for just like, don't know. Yeah, the hope
It
and
was
change.
like the hope or the potential.
Yeah,
of
strengthening international diplomacy. Like,
no.
so if we're going to do this, then do it when people are actually like administering peace to different countries that, I mean, this past president before Trump, President Biden, he had this conflict for 2 years and did nothing. Nothing happened. And then Trump comes in and stuff starts changing.
I should have
not
pulled
just
it. There was a very interesting clip. It was CNN, it was Abby Phillips, and then Goldman, Representative Dan Goldman was speaking. And to get him to admit that Trump had done something impressive. And she even brings up, like, why wasn't Biden able to do something like this? She basically insinuated it in so many words. And he's like, like it was pulling teeth. And I have seen multiple moments where there have been discussions about Trump accomplishing this accomplishment and the negotiations for peace. And they're all like, I even saw this one chick, I can't even remember who she was. And I think it was on the same show, just a different day, where she was like annoyed or frustrated that it was Trump that was going to manage to pull this off.
And honestly, like they're all glitching. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're all trying to like pivot right now and really, really, really push hard on the government shutdown situation. But this has to be talked about because this is, I mean, it's enormous. And even on Morning Joe this morning, Scarborough and what's her name? Brzezinski?
Well, his wife, I forget her name.
Anyways,
Mika Brzezinski.
Yes. So they had someone on who was talking about it and was like, this is actually kind of a big deal. Like, you know, and they're just sitting there stone faced. Like they are so mad and everybody's kind of, like I said, glitching. They don't know how to process. So, I mean, they could kind of brush off the other peace deals, but this one you kind of can't. And I saw this meme where it was like that skull face that's looking at Trump and going, free Palestine. And he's like, I did. And then the face gets like even more mad at him because it's like, well, kind of, you know, work this one out. It's a big deal. And they are so, I think they're just so mad that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a very interesting, like when you which we're about to get into this, there's so much narrative here domestically about him being authoritarian and a fascist and all that, but also typically authoritarians and fascists are trying to work out peace deals. You know what I mean? Like it's not very
inconvenient messaging, really.
Yeah, it's typically not what happens. So let's bring it. Speaking of fascism and authoritarianism, let's bring it back domestically. So there's been a lot going on with Portland, Chicago.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say with everything.
Because that's how I feel. Yes, with everything. But in particular, in regards to Portland and Chicago and Trump calling the National Guard to each of these cities. Now, initially, it was going to be the National Guard of those states. Then, so federal judges issued injunctions blocking guard deployments for Oregon and California and initially Illinois. Then Trump was like, okay, fine. So I can't use your National Guard and I can't use Texas's National Guard. California's National Guard. Let's use Texas National Guard, which is very different. Like I actually can't think of a single time that I have heard of the National Guard from a different state going into another state in order to enforce or do federal protection. But right now, they're up to 400 Texas Guard troops on a 60-day mission that arrived in Illinois just a few days ago. And they're currently staged there because the federal judge that said you cannot use any of this National Guard also saw this kind of workaround that the administration was saying or using and also said, oh, well, but I see what you're doing. You also can't have Texas National Guard. So right now, the administration or the president has them staged just outside of Chicago because they are appealing that. Because if we remember from what happened in California, the initial ruling was an injunction on the National Guard,
Right.
and then it was overturned because the president has the right to use federal enforcement or federal, like National Guard or federal agents, to protect other federal agents in the enforcement
Yes.
of federal law and also federal facilities,
Yes.
which is the crux of this entire issue here,
Yes.
is that federal law is not being enforced, and also agents and federal facilities are getting attacked.
Yeah. And those are
So,
just like actual facts. You can take those to the bank. And so when governors stand up there and try and mislead and gaslight, I don't even think it's gaslighting. Like they're literally just lying to the people that are listening to them that something that Trump is doing right now is illegal. That is false.
yeah.
He is not rising above his pay grade. He's not trying to do something that's against federal rule. He's not. And so just keep that in your back pocket, especially when people try and use the words authoritarian. To be authoritarian, you are writing your own rules, and he is not. He's just abiding by the rules of the game.
Well, and
they don't have to like it, which they
Mhm.
obviously don't like it, but
Well, one of the challenges that we're facing here is that we have gone through what is it, like a decade or over a decade of
Mhm.
lax enforcement when it comes to
Yes.
federal laws, specifically when it comes to illegal immigration.
Right.
And the previous administration completely basically went hands off.
Right.
Then on top of that, this idea of a sanctuary city, which
Mm-hmm.
initially began as, look, we don't want criminality happening in our city, and then
Yeah.
people who are here undocumented or illegally or whatever, however you want to describe it, not wanting to participate in, calling or, not calling the police or help with an investigation because they're afraid that they're going to be deported. We want to be able to communicate with these people so they can be safe and it doesn't
Yep.
allow criminality to fester. That was the initial idea of these sanctuary cities. But that, as usual, whenever you start to give caveats and ignore, it has been abused and expanded, and basically it created entire welfare systems
Right.
state welfare systems that promoted and incentivized people to come to those states illegally. And
Yes.
now, which then brings criminality from other countries along
Mhm.
with them.
Yeah. Well,
Here
it's
you
kind of
go.
like when I think
Surprise!
they're mistaking they're being uncomfortable with Trump doing something wrong. It's kind of like in those old Super Nanny episodes where parents have been allowing their children to misbehave for so long, and then when someone comes in to try and fix it, and Super Nanny's like, "No, you can't do that. These are the consequences." Then the parents and the children get really uncomfortable for a while because they've been able to do whatever they want with largely no repercussions. And then when you are fixing a problem, it just hurts a little bit. And that's, I think, what some of these cities and states are having to reckon with. Their policies and their horrible management of their states is now really, really starting to cause problems. And they don't like the solution because they don't like the person who's implementing it.
Yeah, and we would not be here if the previous administration hadn't let and incentivized millions upon millions of illegal immigrants along
Exactly.
with their criminal counterparts to come
Yes.
into the United States. So
Yes.
so there's a lot of stuff going on. Portland, Chicago, right? Now,
Yep.
in response, we're going back a few days, but the mayor of Chicago signed an executive order. I'm going to play this for you guys. So I think this is a wild idea, and it plays into, this is just a blatant, complete disregard for federal law. Let me play it.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
Okay, so does he not understand that federal law supersedes state law when like that you can't do like you can't do that. I mean, it's like you can't do that.
I mean, it just seems pretty, like, to me, it's like, it just comes off as made up. It's like,
Well, and it's childish. It's childish, and they know that none of these reporters are going to push back and be like, well, actually, if people are attacking federal buildings, ICE or the National Guard has every right to step in and help reinforce the law enforcement that's already there. But does that just not, like, does he not know that, or he knows it and he's just like putting together?
Well, I think it's just kind of like how in every other situation where they're just, he's testing the waters. He's testing to see if he can do it. I don't see like if I were to look at the letter of the law, he has no jurisdiction. Like, he has no right to do that.
Yeah.
As you said, federal law supersedes. Now he can be like, where local law enforcement can't assist them, or they can't, but to impede the federal agents from being able to arrest someone or stage somewhere or anything along the, I don't see what the argument there for it is. And I'm sure that if a situation arises, it's going to get challenged.
Of course.
It's
just childish. That's what it is. This is just childish. Like, I can see all of a sudden, I think that's why he made it clear, like, private businesses. Well, I really don't think that the National Guard is going and trying to do anything in private businesses. They're there explicitly to help law enforcement, back up law enforcement when it pertains to like federal buildings and whatnot. So, okay, fine. If you want to make an executive order.
But he was talking specifically about ICE. So his executive order is specific to ICE. It has nothing to do with, in which ICE has a right to.
You can't really, he can't do that either. I'm very confused by this man.
Well, and I mean, and if you notice, he specifically was saying like stage, and we're not going ICE-free zones, as in they're not going to be able to stage, or they're not going to be able to like pull over and organize or plan anything out by using business parking lot or the parking lots or offices of city buildings. Like, that is, he's trying to impede the ability of them to be able to plan and set up. Because obviously he can't say you can't arrest a person who's on
illegal
like an illegal person who, because he has no jurisdiction for that. So, but still, even to say like ICE can't pull over and use a parking lot.
I wanted there to be someone in that press conference, some journalist who raised their hand and said, okay,
how are you enforcing this?
How does this play out? Are you going to now pit the law enforcement in your state against ICE if they break your made up rule? Are you going to tell your cops in your state to then go try and arrest an ICE? Like, logically, pull this out to its conclusion. I want to know what really is going to happen here. But I think it's all just sound bites.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any type of enforcement or anything that's happened as of yet that's supposed to be, like an enforcement of ICE-free zones.
Well, you're not going to. It's the same when Gavin came out and was like, come on, arrest me, bro. It's like, okay, big tough guy.
One thing that did happen was, I think it was it at the beginning of this week? The news cycle moves so fast, but
it was like 5 days ago or 5 minutes ago. And you're like, that must have been last week.
So there was reports of ICE agents being confronted and rammed with a vehicle and having an altercation with two individuals in a vehicle, a man and a woman, and then having to defend themselves. The woman was shot. Now, there's currently some dispute about the sequence of that particular event. However, just because the defense attorney for these two individuals is saying that ICE was the antagonizer, ICE is saying that these two individuals are the antagonizer. So, I'm just putting it out there that it is up for debate, and those two individuals have been released from the moment, like, I think she went to the hospital, got treated, was arrested, and her and her counterpart have since been released.
Yeah.
So they're out on bail. Now, after that event, what happened was that people who were watching reacted and started to swarm the ICE agents or the officers. Or was it ICE? I'm not sure if it was ICE or if it was Border Patrol. Regardless, what ended up happening is that there were reports that it took them 41 minutes to respond, and that these agents were becoming overwhelmed, and that there was a patrol, I think, what was it? It was a patrol officer, a Chicago patrol officer, that gave a chief of patrol. That's what it is.
Mhm.
So the chief of patrol issued a stand down order and said that, like, so when the officers called for assistance,
Mhm.
they were told not to respond. And I actually have a full report here on it to give you the entire summary, because there was, I think Bill Malugin, he found, or it was leaked to him, a screenshot of the report and also the dispatch recording on it. So
Mm.
let's listen to it, because then the chief or the superintendent of the Chicago PD responded to this.
We're hearing from a lot of rank-and-file Chicago cops who say that they are outraged that they were ordered to stand down after federal agents were attacked. The communication for the stand down appears to have come from the chief of patrol himself over the communications platform with the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, reading very clearly, no units will respond to this. Multiple police sources have confirmed that that message is authentic, and it is backed up by audio of the stand-down order.
So the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Now, the official statement from Chicago Police Department reads, CPD responded to the scene to document the incident. CPD officers were also on the scene to maintain public safety and traffic control. It happened.
But if you look into the reports, it was like 41 minutes before they responded. Now, the superintendent of police did a press conference, and I actually thought this press conference was really interesting, because when he opened it up, he was basically telling people, you can't follow federal officers, or tail them.
Yeah.
You can't pull up next to them. You can't ram them. You can't circle them. You can't do this sort of thing, because they have a right to defend themselves if they feel
Right.
like they're under threat. Like, he went
Yeah.
through this whole spiel, right?
Mhm.
But then he is asked about the stand down order, and this is the superintendent.
Were CPD officers told by dispatchers to stand down?
Well, I don't know about them being told by dispatchers. There was some communication between boots on the ground, a supervisor, and the chief of patrol. So there was some communication by phone. There was something that was put out there that there was an internal message that came from the chief of patrol. That is absolutely not true. There is no internal message. There was a phone conversation. I'm not sure until we get to our after action, all of the exact language that was there, but I have had a conversation with the chief of patrol, who was concerned about officers showing up on the scene. The chief of patrol at that time had no information that anyone was in danger. And let me just be clear about one other thing when it comes to these federal agents. These federal agents can handle themselves, all right? We've been out there and we've seen it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to leave them because we know that they can handle themselves. We need to make sure that we have our officers and enough of them to respond to a scene if they are being surrounded. So were they told to stand down? Our officers were not told to stand down.
That is after the leak of the message that clearly says not to respond, and the dispatch audio being released.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I watched that press conference where he was speaking, and even before he made that statement, just watching him, it felt very defensive to me, and it felt like he was just talking a lot. There was a lot of emotions there. There was a lot of explaining, and whenever there's that much like extra explanation given from a male, like, law enforcement, it almost feels like he knows something went wrong. He knows something went wrong, and he is trying to kind of like smooth it over before it hits the fan. I don't know. It just felt,
Well, I just think, to me, it just seemed kind of wild for him to be saying definitively that something didn't happen when you.
He had to have heard it, the leaked audio. Like, he had to have known that.
Well, and
before
then
he
so
came
like
out, right?
because we're seeing a screenshot of the internal message that he's saying that did not happen, and that okay, so is
You're
he
like,
saying
it's
that
right here, though.
is he saying the chief patrol officer didn't do it? So then who did?
Who did?
Who how did this
Right.
happen? And all of this, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because again, we're going back to the issue of where you have federal officers who are trying to enforce federal law who are not being supported by the local PD. And in fact, not only not being supported, but almost you have like the mayor and the governor of the state encouraging the opposition to these federal officers enforcing federal law. Now they're trying to make it seem like they're jackbooting around the cities,
Yes.
just collecting people at random. I just saw a video, I think it was like these two men were outside of a coffee shop minding their own business. Like, this is the narrative. They're out there minding their own business. And Border Patrol rolls up on them all of a sudden and takes them and arrests them. And they're like, well, these guys weren't doing anything. They were just minding their own business. And then it's MSNBC. There's this one reporter that's doing a lot of this reporting. And he's like asking people, well, how do you know? Or what do they do? And so there's an emphasis, like if you listen to the interview, there's an emphasis on like they were just standing around minding their own business, having a coffee before they went to work. They have a family. They're asked, where are they from? And you can tell that the individual that's being interviewed gets uncomfortable because this person's from Mexico, and you get the vibe that they're illegal.
Yeah.
My question would be, this would be my question, were the officers looking for them specifically because of the fact that they had a deportation order on them?
Yeah. These are good questions.
Those are questions that are worth that. Now, if it's something like they're literally just kind of driving around and there's two random dudes standing outside a coffee shop and they're just like, let's pluck these people up. Okay, that's a fair thing to investigate and to question. But my assumption would be, and I would hope the situation would be, that they have an order. They've been following, investigating where this individual frequents. They go to the area, they find them, they arrest them for deportation. That is the assumption that I would make. The question, but just because I'm assuming that doesn't mean like it's not fair to question it or investigate it. One thing I thought, so Megyn Kelly brought something up that I thought would be interesting to share here. So she shared this X post not too long ago. And it was during this entire time. And it says, in January 2024, the Biden administration wanted to stop Texas from putting up razor wire along the border. It argued before the Supreme Court successfully that the feds were responsible for enforcing immigration law and that any other finding, quote, would leave the U.S. at the mercy of the states, which should not be able to dictate how the feds go about it. Now the feds under Trump are enforcing immigration laws in Portland and LA and Chicago. Democrat politicians in these states now not only refuse to help, but are suing to stop Trump from interfering in their localities by sending the National Guard. So what she is arguing is, or she's pointing out that the very same thing that Biden used as an argument to take down that razor wire that the state of Texas was putting up in order to defend its borders should be used as a defense and against Illinois and California and Oregon, because they've already ruled that, what was it? The quote was, it would leave the U.S. at the mercy of the states, which should not be able to dictate how the feds go about it. So ultimately, I'm kind of bringing that up because that is case law that we have, which a lot of times the Democrats love to point to.
Oh, yeah. Stare decisis. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That defends or, gives Trump the right to enforce federal law and to defend his federal officers and his federal facilities, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also bringing this up because he had a meetup in the Oval Office with Carney. And the day before, he had some other kind of press conference. I can't remember which one it was. Where
There's
he was
just so many.
Yeah, he was he was
There are so
asked
many.
about the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act of 1807 empowers the president to deploy troops domestically to enforce federal laws. And it can be invoked when states cannot or will not suppress insurrections or obstructions. And a lot of things that you're hearing from Pritzker, for example, or from the governor of Oregon, is like, we have no insurrection here. Well, I think the question is, what is an insurrection or obstruction of federal law? So he was asked about the Insurrection Act. Let me play Trump talking about this.
Over a weekend.
What? The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
Can we talk about Portland for a second?
So now he's asked again the following day when he's meeting with Carney.
A very long-standing law that's been on the books.
Yeah, well, it's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor...
So he's been asked about it. He was asked about it the first time. And he's like, I could if I wanted to. I haven't yet. And I'm not, I don't think it's necessary yet. But then he's asked about it again. Now, I will say that in the second one, he brings up issues of crime, which, I don't think you can be issuing the Insurrection Act because of just general
I think in
issues of
his
crime in a city.
Well, in his mind, he's like thinking of mass crime. Like, when over a weekend, 40 people are killed, or there's, that's mass crime. Does that constitute the Insurrection Act? Well, then that's when you get into the legal weeds. And, that's a different conversation. But you're right. You can't just go, there's a lot of crime in that state. Insurrection.
Well, I think you have more of an argument. And I mean, this is going to freak people out, but like, I would say you would have more of an argument if you have a state that is encouraging opposition of federal law enforcement. Like, it is encouraging people to mobilize and oppose federal law enforcement from lawfully enforcing federal law.
Well, that is an insurrection of sorts if you're telling your citizens to reject the law of our country actively and impede their impede their ability to do their job. That's kind of like, I think we should probably do an unfiltered or have a sit down and talk about sanctuary cities. I do not understand how they are legal. What is happening? Like, that is a mini insurrection to me.
Well, for me, I've mentioned this, or I have had these conversations before, and I've often said that our laws are only as good as they are willing to be enforced.
Correct.
And then if you create permission structures that, you just kind of like ignore the law, or, that law is so old. Like, like, you hear that all the time from the Democrats. Oh, how dare a Republican or Trump decide to like use a law from the 1800s.
Still a law. If you hate it, get it overturned. That's right. Yep. So, and you want to know why lots of those laws aren't overturned is because those Democrat policymakers, they don't have the appetite to go stand up. It's like the zombie law about abortion. They're like, I can't believe that this is going to, impact us now 160 years later. We've changed so much. And it's like, well, none of you want to stand up there and fight against it. You just don't. You don't have an appetite to do that. And that, like you said, enforcement is rare on these kinds of things, which is sad. I think that a lot could change if we enforced what's already on the books,
Well, and I think that's what has led us to where we are right now, is that because we've had previous administrations, because of their liberal Democrat policies, have been willing to just oh, let's not worry about our
Right.
borders, or, oh, we have to be more compassionate. So like, let's just let everybody in. You know,
Mhm.
everybody's good and has good intentions. Nothing can possibly go wrong if we just ignore the fact that we have immigration law and our
Right.
borders, or because they don't like the issue, like our immigration laws. And because you hear about it all the time where they want to reform them because it's too difficult to come into the United States, or it takes too
Yeah.
long, or it costs too much. So instead of working through that and making that law better, their solution is just to completely ignore it and violate it and let people come in.
Yep.
Like, that's the solution. Now, I will say, so Trump, in response to all of this, and in response to Pritzker, who is also, everybody's freaking out about the Insurrection Act, that he's potentially, because that adds into the narrative of being an authoritarian.
Yeah.
Trump truthed this to first, it was, he truthed Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also. And then Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago replied, this is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Then that followed. Also, Pritzker also decided to respond to it. And he goes to say, I will not back down. He had a whole thread, but he said, I will not back down. Trump is now calling for the arrest of elected representatives, checking his power. What else is left on the path to full-blown authoritarianism? And he continued on with a very long thread. There's also been this new talking point too, where the reason that Trump is going to deploy the National Guard to these cities is because he wants to take over and just release the military into these states to,
For what
take
reason?
over. I don't know. Also, why didn't it happen in California?
Yeah. Like, I don't understand what they want so badly something like this to happen so that they can feel justified for all the things that they've said about
Because, I mean, if you
Donald
think about,
Trump.
in California, we had a very similar situation. You had judges that said, yes, you can go, like, you can't patrol the streets, but you can go ahead and protect your federal facilities and your federal
Yeah.
officers. And they did that. They did their operation, and now they have left, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if the entire goal of the administration was to just dump the military and take over a state, why haven't we seen it happen? Why doesn't he just go ahead and do it? Do you, like,
Yeah.
I don't, and also the other talking point is that he's going to put them at the polling stations for the midterms. And anyways,
Yep.
speaking of elections, so there was actually an interesting, what is it? Harry over at CNN did a poll about where
Okay.
Trump is at.
Mm-hmm.
And he still is holding steady at like 44%
Mm-hmm.
in regards to approval. So even with all of this going on, his approval rating is holding at 44%. So,
Right.
and that's basically where he was shortly after he was elected. Now, we're in the midst of a government shutdown. And so we have the optics of these ICE raids and the opposition from the Democrats, and now potentially the National Guard going in.
Yeah.
Also, there was a lot of questions about a raid that happened on a Chicago apartment complex, which we don't have time to get into, but
You
I did
wrote
a
an
whole
article about it, right?
I did
Yeah.
a whole article on it. So if you guys want to get into the weeds about that, I got a really long article on my personal Substack. But now we also have another issue, which is the government shutdown and this whole debate about healthcare and the ACA.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, we have had someone decide to, I guess, break with the Republicans. So
Mhm.
Marjorie Taylor Greene she did some X posts about the issue of the ACA, how she's really concerned about the rise of healthcare. So the Biden extensions or subsidies that they issued over COVID, which, by the way, the Democrats, they voted for and they knew they were going to go down. There was going to be a sundown on them. So, but Marjorie Taylor Greene has some thoughts on it. Let's listen to Miss Greene.
And to allow Democrats to have some sort of moral high ground on this issue because they're the only ones talking about it, I think is a major failure from the Republican Party. And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about. And I don't see why the government needs to be shut down. I really don't. I believe that if Republicans learn to govern and wield power, they can use the nuclear option in the Senate. They can open up the government. We can get back to work for the American people, and Republicans can solve this problem that is a very big problem that we can't ignore.
Well,
So it's been interesting, too, because she was also on CNN this morning. And I want to bring this up because we have the midterms coming up. And, we have the optics of the ICE raids. On CNN, she talked about this issue, but she also tied in the fact that the economy is not exactly it's kind of stagnant. We haven't seen a rise in, what do you call
Costs.
it? We've seen costs haven't gone down, and wages. Oh my gosh. And wages haven't gone up. I was like, what is that word? And so she's pointing out, it's like, and if we don't pass something, we don't deal with this ACA issue, or at least give a short extension to them solve the problem, then the costs are going to go up an average of 75%. This is true. Okay.
Yeah.
All of this is true. So, and, she brings in, and I'm, first of all, watching her talk on CNN, I thought was bizarre.
Yeah.
Because she is never invited on there because she's like a far right nutbag is what they would categorize her as. But because she's there to speak against the administration or the challenges in the administration, and she is right in that I don't understand why, if we have control of the House right now, why we don't force the issue. Why, if there is a concern. Now, I will say that the Democrats, I think, are in opposition to even, because the other issue is that they want to add all this other stuff in.
Right.
But I don't understand, like, why wouldn't you force the issue for them to vote on it? To show that they would be unwilling to set aside the concerns of illegal migrants or people who were extended TPS during the Biden administration from having these benefits, and then just deal with the ACA.
Yeah, and just make them vote on it over and over and
over
again.
and over
Call
again.
those votes every day, multiple times a day, just so that it will be very, like, abundantly clear to the American people who is actually kind of sabotaging or, keeping this whole thing hostage. The American people, actually.
And I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize, especially if we have younger listeners. So the ACA is Obamacare. And so Obamacare, remember Obamacare, Rachel?
Yeah,
when we were told
you get to keep your provider, you get to keep your insurance, everything's
your
gonna
costs
be great.
are going to go down.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
And
Everything's
everyone
gonna
in
be
America
better.
is going to have the best healthcare ever.
Ever. Exactly. So the ACA actually ended up doing the opposite. It raised healthcare costs, right? Costs.
Yeah,
That's
a
not even
lot.
a word. It raised healthcare costs by a lot. So what did they end up doing in order to make the costs go down? They created tax credits or subsidies to then pay for the expensive healthcare that they're causing because of the ACA. So, like, think about how inefficient that is.
It's like double costs. Like, it's wild.
And so that's where we are right now. And then the fact is that and then they had to do it again over COVID with the Biden administration, knowing, and still, like, the whole thing, in order to get it passed, was that it was supposed to be temporary. It had a sundown, which is why we're in this situation again. And it's going to go up in costs, not because the healthcare per se has gotten more expensive. It's because that credit or that subsidy will no longer be there to pay for the health insurance that has gotten more expensive because of the ACA.
Right. But people they're not even understanding that or comprehending it. They're literally just hearing, The Republicans don't want to give health care to America. They don't care about America. They don't want to
Well, look,
fund public broadcasting, things like that. And then, we're kind of majoring right now on the health care for illegals, which I think is important. But what we need to be also focusing on is the real cost that even if people aren't feeling the shutdown right this second, we need to tackle the problem that MTG, whatever you think about her, is talking about. It's a problem.
Well, and it's a problem, especially like if we're going to be talking about elections, like if we're just going to put our political hat on.
Yep.
This is a major issue.
And it's
okay?
going to be a pain point for a lot of Americans that's going to hit at just the right time for the midterms.
Correct. And if we come into the midterms with healthcare going up, and in addition to that, the economy is still kind of staying. Now, the economy it is better as in that, like, it's not getting progressively worse like it was under Biden. But it's not going down
right now.
It's stagnant. It's not good right now. Like, we need to do something, like they need to do something else. And they have a lot of things going on. And then it's specifically concerning because of California and Prop 50. That is, and if you guys don't know, if you guys are California listeners and you're Republicans, hello,
wake up,
get activated.
You're going to lose us, the House of Representatives.
Which is huge. So we talked about this before, the redistricting in Texas, right? And so we got those extra 5 seats. Awesome. Yay. Applaud for us. Okay. Those are my rings hitting together. Okay. But California and Gavin Newsom has decided to try and wash those out. And so initially, now they have to go through this entire election or approval process in order for that to happen, which is Prop 50. I did not think Prop 50 was going to pass, but recent polls show that there is support enough for Prop 50 that it might pass. It might pass by a hair, but it looks like it's going to pass, which would completely neutralize those 5 seats that we just gained in Texas, which puts us in a much more precarious position when it comes to to the midterms. And I think it's really interesting too, because I was I was reading Punchbowl News, and for some reason the Republicans are thinking so much that this is not going to work out that they're starting to pull out in providing money and support for that campaign against Prop 50.
And that's not good because there's only a few weeks left until voting. What day is it? November.
Today's the 8th, 9th?
Yeah,
today's the 9th?
9th. So it's November 4th. So, I mean, for them to already, this is 4 weeks in advance to be saying we're not going to, pour any more money into it. It's not.
And then there was also a discussion, I believe, of redistricting in Minnesota, was it? And where there's like a new map that's been drawn. It's on the desk of the governor, all ready to go. But I'm looking up because I'm trying to make sure I have the right state, because I was listening to it this morning while I was taking my dog to the vet. But there's opposition to that, meaning that those might not work out either. And you have Vance flying out to like Indiana or something like that, trying to squeeze us out like one more seat. Like, this is a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a problem too, because if we lose, what's going to happen? Everything's going to come to a stop. And if you don't think that you're going to have impeachments and investigations all over again, like we did the first time around,
makes me so tired just thinking about it.
I know. I can't even imagine. Oh, and by the way, in regards to redistricting, this is like not going to have an effect on the midterms, but it's worth mentioning. The Supreme Court is going to be hearing oral arguments on October 15th on Louisiana versus Callis, I think is how you pronounce it. And this is specifically on the Voter Right Act, where it allows the districting to be basically kind of race-based. So it says it could rule race-conscious redistricting violates the equal protection law, which would then completely change things for the 2028 election. But I don't think we'll have enough time for the 2026 election. So we might end up going like in this weird like back and forth. So, but if you are a listener and you are in California,
get out the word, friends.
Get out the word. Make sure you let everybody know to vote against Prop 50. And let me tell you, the messaging right now, this is the other thing that's freaking me out about this situation, okay, is Gavin Newsom. Because Gavin Newsom is the face for Prop 50. He has the messaging for Prop 50. It's all about being against Trump. Like, this entire campaign in California is about thwarting Trump and the Republican agenda and defending yourself and democracy. And that message is selling in California right now. And if Prop 50 passes, he's going to be able to put that in his belt and be like, look, I fought for you against these horrible, horrible Republicans.
Just in the nick of time for the
just in the nick of time, I saved you.
And just a little note, if you are in California and you're doing mail-in ballots, you're old school, like, you know, or you're not old school, you like to do the mail-in early. I have been seeing online that if you vote no on Prop 50 and you put that ballot in your envelope, there are these little dots, these little hole openings, and it actually shows that you voted no on the left side of your ballot. And if you vote yes, it doesn't show a dot. So flip that sucker over so no one can see how you voted. And, you know,
and they don't
hopefully,
toss it.
Yeah, there won't be any nefarious actions, but it's going all over online where people are getting their ballots and voting no. And then all of a sudden, once they close it or put it in, they're like, wait a second, everybody's going to know how I vote. You know, anybody could do anything with that ballot. So heads up on that.
And I had not seen that. So that's good to know. Speaking of California and the California governor, let's go into, I don't even know, because I think this is funny. It's also sad. It's also kind of like, it can give a person nightmares.
Yeah.
So someone has gone viral recently, and it is another one of California's gubernatorial candidates, Democrat candidates, Katie Porter. Now, if you don't know who Katie Porter is, she is so annoying. Okay. I don't even know how.
You guys might know her without not knowing her if you ever have watched, I think it was Trump speaking or was some Republican speaking, and the House of Representatives was in session because she was a House member, right?
She was a House member. Exactly.
And, of course. And she would sit there and like read a book, an obnoxious,
it's something like I can't. I don't give an
the subtle art of not giving an F, and she's reading that book, like holding it up and trying to look hilarious, you know, while a Republican's speaking. She has that kind of vibe. Like she's a theater kid, probably.
Definitely does. Well, and she also likes to bring in a whiteboard, and let me tell you, Democrats and especially progressives absolutely love her.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if they do anymore. Not so much.
I don't know, but it's been interesting. So she was a representative for actually a pretty conservative, I think it was like for Orange County.
It was Orange County. That's where I grew up. I mean, it's relatively conservative, but
I mean, in comparison to the rest of the state.
It's got conservative pockets like Huntington Beach and whatnot, but then it also has lots of the suburban liberal mom sections. Like you got Newport Beach, stuff like that. So, I mean, I can see it.
Porter.
Yeah.
So she's very much an elitist. I think she's like a either Harvard grad, Ivy League, definitely grad. I don't know if it's Harvard or Yale. Her mentor,
we'll find out right now.
Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if that will give you any kind of signal. So anyways, she's running for governor. And I believe in the state of California, like you can end up in some type of a runoff for a run for governor.
Yeah.
And they're going through the primaries right now. And so she was being interviewed by a local CBS affiliate. And this interview has gone wild. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's a little long.
So she graduated from Yale. She graduated from Yale with a BA, and then she went on and got her JD from Harvard. So she's not dumb. She's just
horrible.
As you will see, she's just a very, very angry white liberal lady.
I can't, like, it's
very
pretty wild.
Angry.
Yes. Yeah. Let's listen and watch to Miss Porter.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're thinking.
In a general election? Yes.
What do you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
You just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The
puts her
question
hands
is
up
the
in her
same thing I
face.
asked everybody is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
Do you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, my gosh.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered
I don't
our
care.
follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a
end an
conversation
interview.
with
To end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So
I'm a
I am
leader.
going to make.
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters?
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about.
Well, that's an angry, aggressive, borderline dangerous type of individual. You do not want, well, and as we've learned, and some already knew, she is, I don't even know how to categorize that, but that is a very aggressive person with a lot of rage. You could just,
to me,
it seeps off of her.
And
she's condescending, and she just has never been pushed by press before because she lives in California. She's never been asked questions because you could see, and props to that that journalist for just keeping her cool and following up over and over and over again. And you can see when she lost it, like when it flipped and she started to get mad and she had to end the interview in her mind because she was caught in not answering the actual question. And then she's like, I will answer the question. She's like, okay, here's the question. Not that question. And then she's like, let's call it. I'm done. Because she's never been pressed before on anything.
Well, I mean, that to me is what it read like. It read like entitlement, as in like, I'm a Democrat, I'm in California,
I'm a leader.
State, I'm a leader, which I thought was hilarious when she was
you're
like,
not, ma'am.
I'm a leader. I'm like, I don't know of leaders that speak
I don't
this
think
way
so.
to like
Anybody.
this does not give off leader. It gives off entitled, and especially condescending, not just like to the reporter, but condescending to, because she goes and she's like, ma'am, why would I need Trump supporters?
Yeah, it was really
and then
rude.
turns and looks at her staff is like, what a freaking idiot for her to ask me this question.
Yeah.
That to me speaks even more. And then she's kind of realizing, oh, I've messed up. I need to fix this. Let me give a proper answer. She gets
also, please don't put this on camera. I want to have a nice interaction. She's backpedaling because she realizes what she just did.
Well, and the thing here is too that if you guys don't know who Katie Porter is, there has been a long history of rumors of her being just completely intolerable and just a bad boss and being really unkind to her staff.
And now that this happened, everything's
now we're
coming
starting
out.
to see additional leaks. Like Politico just leaked one where a staffer comes into her shot and she's yelling at her, telling her to get out
On
of her
camera.
effing shot.
Yeah,
while
camera.
she's being interviewed. And then she was like, oh, let's go back and let's do that again. Because obviously she's being, and I think the same situation happened here. Like, she's in this mindset of, oh, well, this will be cleaned up and they'll make me look better than I've actually looked. So let me try and fix this. And when she realized that that was not happening because the reporter is pushing back on her, meaning this person isn't going to do me any favors. And this isn't going to benefit me. I got to get out of here. And that's when she cut the interview. And I think it's very emblematic of what you have seen for a long time from Democrats in general, because they don't get pushed and they don't get challenged.
No,
So
and they get highly uncomfortable. And I mean, she has her ex-husband in their divorce proceedings said that she dumped hot mashed potatoes on his head, scalded his scalp. Abusive
she was also
towards
the
her
one.
daughter.
Well, she was on it was right after Trump's election, and she shared a story about how allegedly she was picking up her 12-year-old daughter
Right.
from water polo, and that her daughter was crying and really upset because Trump had won. And she said to her mother that if she were to be raped, now she wouldn't be able to get an abortion. First of all, what are you saying to this 12-year-old that that's the conclusion that she's coming to?
She also
Also,
there's
I
another
don't think
video
that
going
story
around.
happened.
Right, of course not. There's also a video going around where her daughter is talking about how very, very sad she is about the climate change and the, earth blowing up or whatever. And it's like, what are you feeding your child? Like, this is dangerous stuff. But, and some people might think it's a bridge too far, but when she was, there's been multiple things reported about her being abusive to her husband, and they are now divorced and doing it in front of their children and stuff. And again, there's like a psychotic break with some of these leftist type of politicians where violence and treating people the way she treated that reporter, please go look for the video of her cussing out whoever was working, her staff, and just treating people like general garbage if you don't like them or they don't say what you want or they press you on things. She's not the first, and it's
and it
really
reminds me
alarming
of
trend.
it reminds me of Hillary Clinton with the deplorables. Like, she let her guard down, and she was like, basket of deplorables. These people are idiots. And I think, if anything, it really gives a sentiment of the situation that we're going to deal with, or that we're currently dealing with, of how Democrats think and talk and dehumanize their opposition.
Well, you heard Kamala Harris yesterday. She was speaking at somewhere, and she basically said these mother effers are insane. Like, they have one too many glasses of wine, or they think they're in a safe space and they mouth off, and then you get to kind of really see who they are, and you had, which I think is hilarious when it comes to cursing. I wish nobody did it. Fine. But you had like the media getting really mad when Trump dropped the F-bomb when he was expressing his anger with Israel and Iran a couple months ago. But then you have, Kamala Harris is talking about actual politicians and the administration and calling them all mother effers, yesterday. It's just a big double standard. And I don't know.
You go into the comments of the video that's going around by CNN or Politico of her yelling at her staff. You go into the comments and people are defending her. And they're also making a defense as if like, well, because people have a problem with a woman speaking, like, no, please shut up. She's just nasty. I would have a problem with anyone being that nasty in general. And then they'll also bring up, it's like, well, but Republicans, but Republicans aren't out like, I don't know, on private chats fantasizing about murdering their opponents. Like, you have the, which we don't have time to get into, but Jay Jones, the attorney general candidate in Virginia, has a scandal going on right now because when he felt he was in a safe space talking to someone that he knew and accidentally texted the wrong person, fantasized about killing a political opponent and musing about the possibility of their children dying in their arms because he had an issue with, and calling those children little fascists. Okay. Yeah. So to me, I think we're having a completely different conversation here because yes, the Republicans, you can criticize how some Republicans talk about their opponents, but I have yet to see anything that in regards to talking about their opponents and wishing ill will or physical or even condoning or winking or, undermining anything that has to do with the talk of political violence on earth. Often, always, Republicans are very quickly to condemn it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think, and a lot of times when you're hearing Republicans talk about it, we're talking about the furthest left of the party of Democrats. Like, yes, we have issues with Democrats in general in regards to policy, but our major issue right now is the far left wing of the Democrats. And the fact that normal mainstream quote unquote Democrats aren't standing up to them and are letting themselves being dragged further to the left. Like, I just feel like these are completely two separate conversations.
They are. And I saw tons of people go, like Republicans go, I didn't like it when Trump cursed like that. Or if,
all the time.
And they're like, I'm not comfortable with it. But then you have, like I said, Kamala Harris out promoting a book calling those people, those MFers are insane. Or you've got Katie Porter just really thinking that that was even okay to talk like that to a journalist. You've got Jay Jones, that whole scandal. This is happening all over the place. And it just reminds me, the mouth
and then the
speaks,
whole Jay Jones situation, you have Tim Kaine and Nancy Pelosi going, well,
yeah, he's an okay guy, I guess. But when you got to listen when people speak, because the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So let that be a reminder for all of us.
We're in some wild, wild times, but let me go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode of Rivera and Reeves. Thank you so much for supporting us. If this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure that you follow us on all of our platforms so you don't miss another episode. And if you want to become a paying supporter, you can find us on Substack, okay? There is a link in the show notes. You get bonus episodes once a month. You get ad-free episodes. You get video early. It's totally worth your time. Also, I've been experimenting with how to do live exclusive for paying supporters to do like Q&As.
Fun.
I know. I'm testing out the technology there on Substack. So that's another reason
I do like a good Q&A. I like a good Q&A.
I feel like we should do that. I think a good Q&A, do it live. We can actually I've been experimenting with the tech. We can bring people in. We can show their questions. So we got plans for the future exclusive to our paying supporters. Okay.
Yay.
So discount link in the show notes. And if you're interested in subscribing to either one of our Substacks, shoot us a DM either on Substack and Instagram, and we will share exclusive discount links to our individual Substacks for Rivera and Reeves supporters. Okay, that's it. That's all we have for today's episode. We will see you again on Tuesday, especially if the government's still shut down, for another episode of Rivera and Reeves. Thanks so much, and that's it. Okay, bye.